And welcome back to another episode of Inspiring Identities, where we come to inspire through faith, love, life, theology, culture, and many, many more. I'm your host, Jay Bull. Let's get into this topic. So today's topic is something I think I've touched in past podcasts, but I want to go just a little bit deeper in it. And basically, what today's episode is basically about men. And I want women to understand a certain type of man a little bit more. Because on this podcast, y'all guys know, everything that I say is my opinion. And we bring people on this show, and everybody expresses their opinion. We don't destroy, we don't discourage, we don't knock anybody for having their own opinion. To each his own is what most of us believe. So even with this is still my personal understanding, my personal belief, just me as a man. And it's just, I want people to understand that as men, we go through a lot. And this is not to say, mind you, this is just dedicated to the men. This is not to say that women don't go through a lot, because Lord knows women go through a whole lot. And I'm gonna get into that on another episode too. But for now, I just want to focus on the men. And I want women to understand that men go through a lot. They go through a lot mentally, they go through a lot physically, they go through a lot emotionally. Because remember, as men, society has built us, society has groomed us to not be emotional. Like from years of growing up, automatically, even women, and that's the double standard that I personally don't agree with in this society, is that men and women, mothers and fathers, aunties and uncles, they tell men throughout their life, boys throughout their life, oh, you're a boy, you're a man, you're not supposed to cry. Or suck it up, you're not supposed to cry. And Percy, I believe that's something that has really hurt men throughout the years, because of the fact that because we have been told for so long that, oh, you're a man, you're not supposed to cry, that when it comes time for us to get in relationships, we keep that same concept. And remember, crying is tied to emotions. So when you tell a boy or a man, you can't cry, you're necessarily telling him you're not supposed to show any emotion. And when you tell a man or a boy to not show any emotion, then that causes him to grow up with the ideology that, okay, I'm supposed to be this one specific way. Like, I'm not supposed to show this side of myself to anyone. So because of that, a lot of men are suffering in silence. Like, a lot of men are suffering in quiet because we've been told for so long that we can't cry. We are not supposed to show this emotion. We're not supposed to be sensitive, which in all actuality, I think is not how God intended it. I strongly believe that God intended us to be human. God intended us He intended men to show emotion. He intended men to be able to cry, because why else would God give us tear ducts? Why else would God give us the emotion of grief, of sadness, of mourning, so that we can do these? Like, there's nothing wrong with a man who cries. There's nothing wrong with a man who gets emotional, because I understand people say, oh, but he's the man, he's the head, he's supposed to be clear-minded. I understand that. But all because a man becomes emotional doesn't mean that he's less of a leader. Because now, if we use that same ideology or that same concept, saying that, oh, because he's the man, he shouldn't show emotion, he's the leader, he shouldn't cry, he needs to always be strong, then that means, now mind you, this is my own personal belief, now using that same concept and that same construct, that means that women can't be leaders. Like, what do you mean? I mean, let's think about it. Because a woman every month goes through a certain biological what we see cycle that causes some of them, not all of them, some of them to become emotional, to become out of what their norm is. So some of them become more sensitive. So because of that, because of that, then we have to be careful with that. Because when you tell a man that, oh, you can't do that, then you have to realize that standard could be pushed all across the board. Now, personally, I don't believe that it should be. I personally believe that men should be allowed to cry, because when you get into a relationship, you want to be able to, women, you want a man who can show a side of him that can empathize with you. You want a man. You don't. I'm sure there's a lot of women out there who don't just want some hard, rock solid man whose emotions are just thrown to the ground and he's just all day, every day. No, a lot of ladies, you ladies want a man who can talk with you, who could commune with you, who can sit down and empathize with you and be like, okay, babe, I understand. Because when we put this concept on men that, oh, you can't talk, you can't be emotional, you can't cry, then that causes men to lock themselves away, and that causes men to not have anybody to really talk to. Which is why you see a lot of men going through a lot of mental issues, a lot of emotional issues, a lot of spiritual issues, because of the fact that throughout their life they've been told, oh, you're a boy, you're a man, stop that crying, you shouldn't cry, men don't cry. No, when a man is allowed to show his human side, then that means he is allowed to be human, which means that he can show that side to everybody. Because realize this, that when you tell a man to lock away a part of himself, and that part of himself becomes so deep, buried deep down, then that human side of him no longer has compassion for other people or other things. Which is why I'll throw in there why you will see a lot of men who are jumping from relationship to relationship, who are jumping from bed to bed, woman to woman, who don't see other people as humans or people, because they don't empathize, because their whole life they've been told, oh no, you don't cry. Stop that sensitive stuff. This is why you see a lot of men who are just animals. Because throughout their life, they've just been told, you're this way. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be the leader. You're not supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to be clear-minded. So if you can't show a side, an emotional side or a human side, then that part of him just get locked away and he just becomes dead. Why you see so many men are just suffering and just going through so many different issues because of this. A lot of men are suffering in silence. A lot of men just want to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm strong and I am the leader, but at the same time, I cry. At the same time, I get sad. At the same time, I do get hurt. So we need to stop doing this and stop causing our men to grow up in silent suffering. Because we think that a real leader or a real man shouldn't show emotion, shouldn't cry, shouldn't be sensitive. Because if a man can cry, if a man can be sensitive, that means he has compassion. If a man has compassion, that means that compassion can be spread to other people rather than him just becoming a dictator and hard-hearted. But that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. It's your boy Jay with another episode of Inspiring Identities, where we come to inspire through faith, love, life, theology, culture, and many more. Be blessed, be humble, be a native. Let God God. It's your boy Jay with another episode of Inspiring Identities, where we come to inspire through faith, love, life, theology, culture, and many more. Be blessed, be humble, be a native. Let God use you.